And this is how it showed me how selfish she was. She was like, oh, even if I don't deserve, she was like, even if I don't deserve a second chance, I still want one anyway. It's like, it doesn't work like that.
Good luck.
Alright, what's up YouTube? Back at you with another video. We're here with The Power, Book 2, Season 4, Part 1, review rant, characters exposed, all of that. First things first, I want to say shout out to one of my subscribers who reached out and asked me if I was going to do this video. So, shout outs to you. Anyway, in this video, I'm basically just going to be giving my thoughts on the characters, the significant things that happen, and my predictions for what's going to happen in part 2, so on and so forth. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so first and foremost, I want to give my thoughts on Tariq at this point. You know, and the thing is, as much as I hate Tariq, and I've always hated him, you know, if you've seen any of my older videos, you know how much I hate this dude. For starters, I think I like his character growth at this point. I think there's something different about Tariq in Season 4 than the other seasons prior. I think maybe we've seen a little flashes of it in Season 3, but I feel like Tariq is just on demon time straight up in Season 4. And what I mean by that is he has like a look in his eyes, and he has like a coldness about him that he didn't have before. I think like there's a difference between, you know, Tariq in Season 1 and Season 2, where he's just a Stansfield student kind of dabbling into, you know, drug dealing and violence and all of that shit, to now really he's more so a drug dealer, you know, more so than a student, if you get what I'm saying. So instead of him just being like a regular kid, he is the part, like he is that now. You know, Tariq is 100%, you know, a drug dealer, and he is, you know, one with the lifestyle. And I feel like now he kind of does a lot of things, makes decisions with zero hesitation. You see, back in Season 1, when he had to kill Professor, what was his name? What was his name? Jabari or some shit? I forgot the guy who was smashing Carrie Milgram. You know, whatever his name is. Professor Jabari. Yeah, Jabari Reynolds. Yeah, Jabari Reynolds. When he had to kill him, he hesitated. And it was Kane. Kane was the one that had to pretty much push him over the edge to, you know, shoot him. So in this case scenario now in Season 4, you know, Tariq is just, yo, if he's got to pull the trigger, he's got to pull the trigger, and he's very quick to do that now. And honestly, I admire that about his character, despite the fact of, you know, despite all my hatred for his character, you know, up until this point. Now, my issue with Tariq is pretty much what Tommy told him. You can't do both. Like, stop. You can't have your cake and eat it too at this stage in the game. You know, Tariq has to understand that you can't be the top dog and then think that everything is gonna go your way 100%. If you know what I mean. Like, Tariq thinks that he could protect his family and then still be involved in the drug business at the same time. And that's what Tommy tried to tell him. Tommy told him, he was like, yo, you know, hey, like, you can't be a college student and try to do this shit at the same time. It's like you're either all in or all out. You know, there's no in between. And I feel like Tariq is getting to a point where all this plot armor that he's got, he legit thinks that he's untouchable. He thinks that like nothing's gonna happen to him, you know, or that there's not gonna be any consequences to the shit that he's doing, you know. So but basically that's what I like about Tariq. Tariq, you know, has gotten to a point where I feel like he's grown into himself, and he actually is starting to look like he's maturing, because I haven't seen that in the other seasons. You know, the other seasons 1, 2, and 3, he was kind of, you know, the same Tariq that we always knew, which was, you know, very immature, you know, looking for other people to kind of clean up his mess, to now he's just more willing to just, you know, do things himself if he has to. And I respect that, you know. So if nothing else, you know, I just respect Tariq's, you know, maturity as it relates to the drug business, basically. So that's my thoughts on Tariq. Brayden. Now, and I think in my first characters exposed rant that I did about power, you know, I pretty much said that I don't really think much of Brayden, and I still kind of don't now, you know what I mean, for the most part. But what I will say, what I like about him is the fact that he's really loyal. Like, I can never say that Brayden is not loyal. You know, Brayden has always been loyal to Tariq, but my problem with him is that he's loyal to Tariq to a fault. Because Tariq is not loyal to Brayden. Honestly, if Tariq ever had to pull the trigger on Brayden, he would do it with no hesitation. Honestly, because he's gonna be like, yo, Brayden, yo, you're in the way of my future. I know you're my bro and all of that, but yo, I gotta do what I gotta do. And Brayden would never do that to Tariq. You know, Brayden's new little girlfriend right now, you know, she spiked Tariq's drink or Tariq's water with like acid or some shit, and you see how concerned Brayden was. It's like, I'm not even gonna front. It's like, if you want to have a best friend that's gonna ride with you, you're gonna want to have a friend like Brayden, who, you know, and I'm not saying it's healthy to kind of put your life on the back burner for somebody else, but you are gonna want to have somebody that is going to be quick to have your back no matter what. It's like, no matter what things that they go through, Brayden always seems to have Tariq's best interest, even if it's inconvenient for him. You know, and I like that about Brayden, because I think Brayden, you know, I would say like season 1 and season 2, I believe, where, you know, he was kind of on the fence as far as his loyalty, because Kane, you know, would manipulate him a lot. What the? Wow, look at that. Look at that. Wow. So, you know, Brayden was always easily manipulated and easily swayed, and he's not like that no more. So now, you know, there's really nothing anybody can say to Brayden that will make him flip on Tariq. You know what I mean? Because if that was the case, then Brayden would have easily, you know, just ratted him out in court, you know, back in season 2, you know, when all of that shit was going on. So when he had that opportunity to do so, he didn't do it. You know, and that meant, you know, his relationship with his family, because, you know, he literally, you know, chose Tariq and the drug business over his family. So, I mean, at this point now, Brayden doesn't even really have much of a choice but to be loyal to Tariq, because outside of Tariq, he doesn't have anything. I mean, maybe, yeah, he can go to his family and he can disown, he could probably, you know, say sorry and say, you know, he's done or whatever, but, you know, they're probably not going to believe him, because, you know, Kane going to, you know, their house and beating up his older brother is as bad as it gets. You know, her getting kidnapped by, his sister getting kidnapped by Drew and Diana, that's as bad as it's going to get, you know, as it relates to, you know, his relationship with his family. So I feel like now there's really no turning back. And I think that Brayden is okay with his decisions, or the decisions that he's made up until this point, and the consequences that came with them. And that's what I respect about Brayden. That's what I respect about Brayden for sure. So, but I will say in the future, because of the fact that he's starting to do drugs now, and he's kind of turning to those things to kind of deal with whatever he's going through, because he straight up told Tariq, he was like, yo, like, it's not like I could come to you and talk to you about my problems, because you always seem to have some shit that's going to trump what I'm going through, so I can't come to you, you know, on the personal tip. So it's like, really, him and Tariq, they have like more so a business relationship than personal. And I think it's fucked up for Brayden, because Brayden has always been, you know, there for Tariq. Whenever Tariq, you know, is going through something, business aside, I'm talking about just personal shit, Brayden is always there to listen to him. Brayden is always there for him, but Tariq is never there for him. So I think at some point, he's really going to have to man up and tell Tariq, like, yo, it's either this respect goes both ways, or I'm going to have to step away. Because if it wasn't for Brayden, Tariq would be dead. Tariq would be dead right now. Because at the very end of season 3, you know, Brayden was the one that went and saved his life. It wasn't, I mean, Obi kind of helped, but Brayden was the one that really, you know, stepped in there and helped him out. So, in essence, as much as Tariq may want to forget, he owes Brayden his life. So I feel like, you know, whenever he has an opportunity to shit talk, you know, Brayden, I feel like he shouldn't, because, again, you know, you are indebted to him, because how many times has Tariq saved Brayden's life? And then, you know, vice versa. I'm pretty sure Brayden has done Tariq more favors than the other way around. So props to Brayden, and I hope, you know, again, in part 2, you know, something, you know, will happen where he will start to, you know, look after himself like Tommy did. Because they're constantly, you know, selling the, you know, Tommy and Brayden similarities and correlation. And, you know, remember, Tommy started looking out for himself after a while. And he was like, yo, fuck Ghost. I'm gonna look after myself. You know, and then look where that got him. You know, Tommy is still alive and Ghost isn't. So, you know, but anyway, that's my thoughts on Brayden. Kane. Now, you know, Kane is still my favorite character for a lot of different reasons. And I've said that, you know, since my very first video on Power. You know, and again, really what I like most about Kane is what he benefited from, or what he learned from Mecha in season 2. You know what I mean? Like the Kane that we're looking at right now, that we see, you know, today, that's all thanks to Mecha. That's all thanks to Mecha. Not even Lorenzo. Because again, him and Lorenzo never really had a relationship. So, you know, Kane now, he's starting to take charge, and he's starting to, you know, be his own man outside of Monet. But it's still really obvious that, you know, Kane is still operating from, you know, what a lot of people call, you know, a mother wound. You know, meaning that if your mother wasn't there for you, or if you never really had a good relationship with your mom, or, you know, you never really got her approval or her love, you're going to start to look for it in other people. And really, that was the basis for his relationship with Effie. I mean, like, yeah, Effie's cute, she's attractive, but he was getting a lot of that love and affection that he wasn't getting, you know, from Monet. And he never got that, you know, as a matter of fact. You know, when you really look at, you know, book 2 from the very beginning, it's not like, you know, we ever really had a moment where Monet was patting Kane on the back, you know? And now what he's not getting from Effie, because he started to realize, like, yeah, Effie likes me, but she's not really rocking with me like that, the way that I think that she is. And the reason why he was able to come to that conclusion was because he learned that from Mecha. You know what I mean? How to really peep game on situations, and to pull strings, and, you know, for lack of a better word, you know, manipulate, and to play chess in terms of your relationships with people. You know, so once he saw that, you know, again, like, there wasn't really, you know, a happy ending or a rainbow at the end of, you know, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with his relationship with Effie, Noma filled that void for him. Kane is the teacher's pet. So he's showing up to class, you know, with an apple every day, sitting at the front of the class, you know, tooting her horn, you know, stroking her ego and all of that. And I mean, hey, if that's what's best for his character, you know, fine. But I'm hoping that, you know, he stops kind of doing that, because ultimately somebody like Kane is always going to get taken advantage of by some kind of woman. You know what I mean? Until he deals with, you know, the source of all of that. Also, shout out to Woody MaClean, because the argument that he had between him and Drew, to me, was a very powerful scene. And honestly, I think that was his best scene on that entire show. And it really showed that, you know, there's a lot more to him than just the bad boy, you know, goon, gangsta, you know, outer exterior. Because he showed, you know, finally, like, he actually had a moment where he could say what his relationship with Lorenzo meant to him, and the fact that that pretty much went unresolved, because before he could finally get that approval from his pops, you know, Monet went and killed him. And we know that, you know, he, like, honestly, like, Mecha kind of filled that role, like he was like a father figure to him. But because he betrayed Mecha, he didn't get that approval for him either. You know, because Mecha was about to cut off his fingers and all of that. So, you know, when it came time for him and Lorenzo to start bonding, that's what he was looking for. And I think that was cool that, you know, he was able to show that side of himself, which Drew took advantage of, because he poured his heart out and said all of that, and then all Drew could think to do was grab the gun, you know, from him. But I think out of all the characters on this show, I think Kane does have the most profound, you know, character development. It's just that, again, like, it's just the mommy issues is what really kind of makes his character, like, not as cool, you know, as he could be. Because again, Effie is always going to do him dirty, and Noma, is only a matter of time before, you know, she's going to cross him too, or she's going to do something to piss him off. And at that point, it's going to be too late, because Noma's going to get everything that she wants. So what I really mean to say is that, you know, Kane is always getting used by women, by the women in his life. Like, the women that he cares about, they're always using him for something. And then he always ends up getting the short end of the stick. And I think in the future, I mean, I'd like to believe they're not giving him all this camera time just to kill him off, you know, at the very end. But I think that, you know, him and Tariq are going to come to blows, because he did have, You know, that little moment where he told Tariq, he was like, yo, I'm gonna see you soon. So there's going to be a climax to that rivalry between the two of them. And honestly, with all that plot armor that Tariq always has, I think Kane is gonna get shot. You know, Kane might get shot again and or killed. You know, because now with the type of person that Tariq is, I don't see him hesitating to kill Kane finally. You know, with all the shit that those two had going on, it's like, yo, yeah, like honestly, if I was Tariq, yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to kill Kane. Because I know if I don't, he's gonna kill me. Because this nigga practically blames me for everything that went wrong in his life. So, you know, it's gonna happen at that point. Because again, this is the last season, so what are they gonna do with his character? They're probably gonna have to wrap it up at some point. So, I mean, hey. But that's my thoughts on Kane. Drew. LGBT Drew. And I can't even call him that because this whole season he hasn't had a boyfriend. You know, so, you know, there's that. Now, I'm going to piggyback off of what I said about Drew in, I think, one of my last reactions of season 3, I think, and my last rant. And what I said before is that Drew has the potential to be a really dope character. Like, you know what I mean? Like, him being gay aside, like, I actually respected his character. And, you know, the energy that he brought to the Tejadas. You know, that's what I said. I said I felt like he was a good balance of Kane and Diana, and I felt like he balanced them out. Oh my gosh. Shut the fuck up. So, and the fact that, you know, they weren't, you know, constantly trying to, you know, sell their agendas and all of that shit, he finally got a chance, or they finally got a chance to flesh out his character and how the events of season 3 really affected him without making it, you know, an LGBTQ love story all the fucking time. You know, now here's what I do respect and agree with Drew is sometimes not everybody is born into a good family, a healthy family, a positive family, you know, and he's trying his best to forge his own path outside of, you know, Monet, Drew, and I mean Monet, Kane, and Diana. Like, he wants to live his own life. He wants to be his own man, you know, outside of, you know, the drug business, which was thrusted upon him. It wasn't like he chose it. Like, that was just put on his plate by Monet. So now he's really trying his best to stand firm on his beliefs, you know, which is, yo, like, this is the truth of how I was raised, and these were the consequences that I suffered as it relates to that. So now I'm going to go my own way. And, you know, I can't really fault him for that. I mean, like, yeah, it was fucked up, you know, with him trying to, you know, kill Monet and stuff like that, but that's what he felt like he needed to do because that's just how he was raised. So it's like, can you really blame him for coming to that conclusion and thinking that he had to off his own mom in order to live his own life? You can't blame him for that. You know, he was, you know, like, raised to be a motherfucking gangster. So that's just what, you know, they do. But at the same time, I just feel like, kind of sort of like Kane, he's still searching for, you know, his mother's, like, love in a way. So it's like, yeah, he's mad at her, but there's still a part of him that's still willing to hear her out. There's still a part of him that wants her to make amends. That wants to have a good relationship, you know, with his mother. I mean, because if I was him, I'd be done. You know, I mean, that'd be it. Like, you know, there is no, you know, talking about it at that point. Because again, like, she did what she did. She killed his father. You know what I mean? She killed his fucking boyfriend and shit like that. And then she ultimately, you know, oh my gosh. And she, really? And she forced him into a life that he didn't want. And it just seemed like, you know, his opinion or how he felt about it didn't matter, you know, to her. Like, it didn't even occur to her. So it's like, I understand his anger and the hurt behind a lot of his actions and a lot of the things that he's saying and doing, because, yo, it's just like, every man is entitled to live life 100% on his terms. And throughout this whole entire show, for the most part, he's been living his life on someone else's terms. And it's like, anytime he tried to do something for himself, something, you know, got in the way of it that was beyond his control. So, in a way, although I don't like Drew, or I'm not the biggest fan of his character, I have to root for him in a certain way, because it's like, yo, I think he deserves at this point now to live his own life and to be his own man in whatever form that comes in. And I think, you know, Monet, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, if there's any part of her that truly loves her son, then she would understand that and let him go. You know, so, but I think, honestly, just the way that Power is set up, I don't really believe that any of these characters are going to get a happy ending, because that's just how the show is. The show is very morbid, you know, when it comes to family and relationships and all of that. So I don't see him, you know, really getting out of this, you know, scot-free, especially with what, you know, Detective Carter, you know, pretty much, you know, forced him into. So I don't know, you know, how it was going to pan out for him. But, you know, the only one that, you know, I can blame for all of that is Monet. You know, so that's my thoughts on Drew. I'm not going to lie. I take back what I said in one of my older videos, where I said that if I had to build a mother from scratch, I said she would be like Monet. And the only reason why I really liked Monet was just because of how protective she was over her kids. Because, you know, any real mother is going to come to, you know, the aid of their kids when they need her, regardless of whatever relationship they have at that particular time. You know, she's going to have their back no matter what. You know what I mean? And I always admired that about Monet, because I do think she's strong in that aspect, that, you know, regardless of whatever relationship she has, whether she's on good terms or bad terms with any of her kids, for the most part, she would have their back, you know. And again, that goes for season 1 through 3. Now, season 4 is concerned, again, I do have to acknowledge the fact that she did try to kill, you know, Drew and Diana. Now, I'm not going to say that she doesn't have a legitimate reason to do so, but at the same time, she has to understand that she only has herself to blame for their hostility, animosity, and anger towards her. She has no one to blame but herself. And I'm glad that the writers on the show, they put a character that Monet actually will listen to and respect, that can tell her the truth. Because sometimes it's not the message, it's the messenger that people really need to, you know, that people really respect. Because I can tell somebody the truth, but if they don't respect me, then it doesn't matter. Sometimes people have to and want to hear it from a certain person in order for them to process it. You know, and that had to have been, you know, her cousin that, you know, is her same age or some shit like that. They grew up together, you know, and who I'm assuming is a parent herself. That's what I'm saying. Like, most parents, it's like, if you have a problem with your parents and you tell them that, they're not going to want to listen to you. But if you have an aunt or an uncle or grandfather that is in their same age bracket, generation, and everything like that, they're actually going to listen to them because they are a peer of them. You know what I mean? It's like a peer or a colleague. You know, they're on the same level. You know, a parent is never really going to listen to their kids because they're looking at it like, oh, you're my kid. What do you know? I'm the parent. I know what's best. And, you know, look where that got Monet. Because I said before, I said, yo, ultimately, what's going to be Monet's downfall is the fact that she be lying, you know, all the time. And now, at this point, it's not even just that. It's really her selfishness and narcissism, dare I say. Because really, Monet, she's not even honest enough about the fact that all she really cares about is herself. You know what I mean? And then she's so selfish. She's such a selfish fucking parent, to the point where it's like she wants her kids to be there for her instead of her kids, you know, her being there for her kids. A parent, you know, a parent's kids are not supposed to be there for her, you know, there for them. It's supposed to be the other way around. You know, the kids didn't ask to be there. You asked for them. So why is it like, oh, you know, because I gave you life, you owe me yours? To the point where I'm not even going to allow you to live your own life because I want you to live mine. You know, I need to live vicariously through you, because that's all she's been doing. And then the only one that she really wasn't, she still was, because even Zeke, you know what I'm saying, fell victim to her selfishness. You know, and that's the problem that I have, you know, with Monet at this point now. It's just like, I can't even, as much as I like her, I can't even really condone the fucked up shit that she's doing, because it's really fucked up. You know what I mean? And it's like, even when she was dying in freaking purgatory, you know, in the motherfucking afterlife, she was still being mad selfish. Because when the ghost of Mecca and Lorenzo showed up, these niggas were like, yo, she's still on the same shit. This nigga Mecca was like, yo, this bitch, like, still, she didn't even apologize to these guys for putting bullets, you know, in their head, or at least putting a bullet in Mecca's head and then getting, you know, Lorenzo killed by Drew's boyfriend. You know, because the problem that I have with Power is that it seems like Power just, you know, doesn't like father figures for some reason. So it's like anybody that is like a healthy father figure on that show for another character, he always ends up dying at some fucking point. Like he always ends up getting screwed over, fucked over, or murdered at a certain fucking point. You know what I mean? And Monet now, it's like when she does like apologize, like even then, like it's still not even genuine to me. Because in these scenes, I see right through it. It's like Drew will come to her and then he's gonna tell her like, yo, like, this is my truth. This is what I feel like you've done to me. And then she's gonna, you know, just sit there and then just make excuses and be like, oh, I'm your mom, watch your mouth. And then when Drew's like, yo, like, I'm not gonna sit there and listen to this. And she's like, oh, Drew, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. And I'm like, nigga, you're only saying that because you want me to work for you. Like, you're not saying that because you actually mean that. Because every time, every apology is always, you know, followed by some kind of business proposal or some shit. She's like, okay, you know, I'm sorry, you guys, but I want you guys to come back in the business and work with me. It's like, yo, like, do you not understand that the business is what got us all into this mess in the first place? It's like, okay, if the business is so great, then you be in the business, but why do I have to do it? You know, and honestly, I always wanted to make a video about this or a rant about this, but what I feel like, I guess people should take away from this, or certain people who can relate, is that, yo, family isn't everything. You know what I mean? Like just because somebody is your mom or your dad doesn't automatically mean that they have your best interest. Because whatever they think your best interest is, it's always theirs, not yours. You know what I mean? And then they're not going to hesitate to, you know, put their needs before you. And I'm not saying all parents are like that, but, you know, characters like Lorenzo and Monet and Tasha, they're based on real people, because art imitates life. And Monet is a you know, an artistic representation of, you know, one of the worst moms you could possibly have. And not because she's a drug dealer, but because of how selfish she is. And how it just doesn't seem to bother her that, yo, all three of my kids are hurting because of me. And it's still, all she can think about is dollar signs and the business. And I really do feel like they let her character off the hook too easily. Too easily. You know what I mean? Like, she was on her deathbed and it really wasn't even like a full episode before she came back to life. You know what I mean? Like, this nigga Zeke, who really, I feel like she loved more than anybody else on that fucking show, because she was a lot softer with Zeke than anyone else. All three of her kids and Lorenzo put together, she loved Zeke. You know what I mean? But even then, you know, that love didn't trump her selfishness. And even Zeke said, yo, what makes you think you deserve a second chance? And you know what she said? And this is how it showed me how selfish she was. She was like, oh, even if I don't deserve, she was like, even if I don't deserve a second chance, I still want one anyway. It's like, bitch, it doesn't work like that. Like, it does not work like that. And I hope, and I'm not saying like I want her character to die or some shit like that, but, you know, when Drew said, yo, like, she keeps getting a pass, it's true. She does keep getting a pass on this fucking show. And, you know, some retribution or some karma is in order. Because there has to be some type of reparations that are paid for the shit that she's done. You know, to Mecca, Lorenzo, her kids. Like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? Even these flashbacks, it's just like, yo, seriously? Like, no kid, you know, who's probably, you know, 11 or 12 years old, however old Drew was, should have to shoot somebody because of some situation that, you know, her, you know, their mother put them in. You know what I mean? And again, like, just the respect that I have for Monet, it kind of went out the window because, again, I just can't think of a more selfish character than her. I mean, honestly, she might have Tasha beat. She might just have Tasha beat. You know, it's just that Tasha is dumber than she is. But, you know, her, she's very fucking selfish. It's like, yeah, I cannot say she doesn't love her kids, but she doesn't love her kids and the people in her life that she says that she cares about the right way. You know what I mean? It's about loving people the right way. It's not like, oh, you're just going to take whatever love I have to give. No. No. Love is not, you know, a one size fits all kind of thing, especially, you know, when it comes to parenting. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say, all right, I'm gonna love all my kids the same. No, because they're different people. If I have 3 kids, I gotta love them differently. It could be the same equal amount of love, but it has to be different. You know, and Monet, honestly, will never understand that because we only got, what, 4 or 5 episodes left? So I don't think Monet can really, you know, kind of turn over a new leaf, you know, in 5 episodes. And I'm also gonna end, you know, my thoughts on her with this. Monet is a perfect example of, you know, my, you know, mentality when it comes to people. And I say all the time that people don't change. People grow. People can grow in the right direction, the wrong direction, or people can stay stagnant. You know what I mean? And Monet, as of right now, she's the same person that she's always been since way back in the day, you know, according to them flashbacks. She's always been the same type of person. And I think where Drew and Diana and even Kane go wrong at is expecting her to be a different person. She's never going to change. You know, and I don't think she's capable of growing. She's just stagnant. She's just stagnant. And people like that, you have to get away from them. Even if they are, you know, your family. You know, at the end of the day. You know, it's unfortunate, it's fucked up, but that's the harsh reality of life. You know, and the show really, you know, paints a very accurate picture of that, because there's a lot of people, me included, that can relate to that. You know, not everybody has, you know, a healthy, normal family. There's a lot of motherfuckers out there, you know, that have parents like Lorenzo, parents like, you know, Monet. And it gets to a certain point where you grow up and you have to get away from those people in order to live the life that you want to live. And the fucked up part is that certain family members, they don't even want that for you. They don't even want that for you because they didn't have that shit. They didn't have that shit. Monet wants her kids to have what she's always had, which is a fucked up life. You know what I'm saying? She's like, yo, like, yeah, like, you could have better, but I don't want you to because I never had better. I only want you to have just what I had or less. And I can relate to that because I know exactly what that's like. So, you know, as far as Monet is concerned, I don't really have any, you know, respect for her anymore. So that's my thoughts on Monet. And that's some real shit for y'all asses.
Message!
Diana. Now, again, as pretty as Latoya Tonadeo is, you know, I have to criticize her character at this point, bro. And it pains me to do so, but it is what it is. First of all, Diana, she takes after her mother in the sense of how much she lies and how she's going to lie for her best interest. You know what I mean? And the fact that she was able to have sex with Tariq in season 3, and then as soon as it was convenient for her, throw him under the bus, even if that meant him getting executed, because that's what would have happened if Brayden didn't come, you know, to his rescue. And then now she wants to, you know, just be like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, I didn't mean for it to happen. It's just like, yo, come on, man. Like, you knew what would have happened to him. You knew exactly he was going to get shot. But again, she was willing to do that in order for her best interest. And that's what I don't like about Diana. Diana, like, and I guess I can say it's not really her fault. I mean, it is her fault because she's old enough. But at the same time, she's just doing what she knows. You know what I mean? Like, she is only doing what Monet and her father taught her, which is to lie and manipulate and to do what she has to do to protect her family. You know what I mean? And I personally, I don't like that, you know, about her character at this point now. Like, I do respect that she wants to get out the game, you know, and she wants to just go to school, you know, live a regular life and all of that shit. But it's just that the way that she's going about it, I just don't like it, because I feel like having to stoop down to manipulating and lying, I think is beneath her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think she's too dope of a character to just constantly have to stoop down to lying and manipulating and sneaking around, you know what I mean, and all of that to fucking, you know what I mean? Like, I just think she's better than that. You know, she's way better than that. And the fact that she's all knocked up now and pregnant, you know, by somebody else other than me is a fucking problem.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
And now, I think what's really going to happen is I think she's really going to show traits of Monet, you know, in a way, because she was raised to, again, put family first 100%. So, and now, you know, her being a parent, it dawned on her that, you know, now she has something to protect. Now she has something to live for, if nothing else. So school aside, drug business aside, whatever, she's got a baby to protect, you know, presumably a son, you know, as of right now. And she's gonna do what she has to do. But I just feel like she should just tell the truth, you know, because at the end of the day, I think the truth is what's going to serve her in the end, instead of lying. Because the only reason why, you know, Tariq was gonna put a bullet in her head was because she was lying. The only reason why Kane and Monet wanted to put a bullet in her head was because she was lying. You know, and that's not who I think her character really is. It's like, if I knew Diana in real life, if I had anything to say to her, I'd be like, yo, like, that's not you. You know, you're better than this. You know what I mean? And don't let, you know, your circumstances dictate your personality or who you are, because, you know what I mean? Like, that's not you. You know, so I hope, which I'm pretty sure she'll be fine. You know, I don't think they're going to, you know, write into the show that her character is pregnant and then kill her off at the end of the season. You know, because I knew she wasn't going to die. I mean, that would have been a crazy plot twist if Tariq actually shot her, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. You know, when it was all said and done, you know, in that scene where he had the gun on her, because it seemed like everybody knew that she was pregnant before the season even came out. You know, so I think Diana will be all right. I will say though, that little, you know, premonition, you know, seeing into the future, you know, dream that Tariq had. Hey, I wouldn't be surprised if she was the one that was gonna put a bullet in Tariq. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised at all if she was the one to actually pull the trigger on him. Because if there is any parallel between Ghost and Tariq, is the people that are closest to you, the people that you love the most, are going to be the ones that are going to be ultimately your undoing. And I've said in many videos prior that a woman, 9 times out of 10, is always ultimately going to be a man's downfall. And because she's the one that's closest to him. And what may happen is, which again, it might not be the thing or not, it might not be the case or not, but it could come out that, you know, Salim was actually the father of her baby instead of Tariq. So when she finds out, when she finds out that Tariq killed Salim and Salim ended up being the father of her child, what do you think she's gonna do? What do you think she's gonna do? Because we already saw that once Diana makes up her mind that she wants to get somebody out of her way, or she wants to off somebody, she will manipulate her way, you know, like she will pull the strings in order to do that. You know, just in this case scenario, she may be the one to pull the trigger, you know, herself. Because they're selling the parallel between Tariq and Ghost and all of that. So by the end of part 2, Tariq might be surrounded by more enemies than allies. And she might be the closest one, you know, to do him in. So I hope that's not the case. But, you know, I mean, again, you know, I should have been on that show, and I should have been the father, you know, of the baby, not Tariq. So, I mean, if she killed him, that'd be unfortunate. But hey, fuck it, because I like Diana more than Tariq. So, you know, that's my thoughts on Diana. Salim Ashe Freeman, or whatever his real name was, Robert, or whatever the fuck his real name was, or some shit. AKA Donkey from Shrek. AKA, you know, the ugliest nigga on the show. But let me stop violating. Anyway, it was noble of him to help Diana out, right? But if you're going to, you know, be that guy that's going to try to protect and help her, then be that guy. Don't do some shit like that if you actually can't commit to it, you know, when you're under duress or in harm's way. Because, you know, as soon as he sent her over to his parents' house, some shit in Greenwich, Connecticut, as soon as Tariq showed up, he didn't even really try to stop him. He didn't even ask who was at the door. You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, you're not even cool with Tariq. So even though he's knocking on the door, you don't have to open it. I mean, I'm pretty sure Tariq probably would have muscled his way in anyway. But, you know, you just let him stroll into the, you know, into your own crib, interview you, interrogate you on some shit, and then he pulled a gun on you and told you that you bitched up as soon as you gave up, you know, your ex's you know, location and whereabouts. And then as soon as he said that, as if the aforementioned wasn't, you know, a blow to the ego enough, you want to try to grab the gun from him and you get shot? Pathetic. Pathetic. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there had been like a fight before Tariq pulled his gun out, then fine. But he waited to the absolute last minute to try to stick his chest out and to man up. And to me, he failed. So mission failed. You know, in my opinion. You know, and honestly, judging by, you know, the way that his body looked, you know, after he got shot, that nigga's dead. You know, Salim is dead. You know, and I don't think he's coming back to life. I do think, again, that his death is going to, you know, come back to haunt Tariq at some point. Like, I don't think Tariq is just going to be able to shoot this nigga and then no one's going to say anything about it. So, but yeah, so, you know, honestly, that's my thoughts on Salim, really. I think if he is the father, you know, then I guess that'll be like his character's vindication, I guess. You know, but in my opinion, he died in vain. Because what he really should have did was tell Tariq where she was at if he had to, okay? Because he wasn't really willing to die for the shit. That's why he told him in the first place. And then let Tariq leave and then tell Diana that he's coming so she can go somewhere else. That's it. I mean, I honestly come up with a better lie than that. I would have told Tariq, oh, her brother came and picked her up. I don't know where they went. Tariq not gonna easily run up on Drew the way he would run up on Salim, because Salim poses no threat. You know, just all around, Salim is just a whack-ass character. You know what I mean? Like, even in that one moment where he could have done, you know, something substantial, he didn't do it. You know, so that's my thoughts on, you know, Donkey from Shrek. Effie. Again, you know, with somebody like her, my thoughts before haven't really changed. Effie is always going to look out for Effie. Effie is not a good person. She's not even really an interesting or good character at all. You know, and out of Tariq's 3 girlfriends, I honestly believe that she was like the least attractive. You know what I mean? And then her shitty character, you know, or shitty personality really just didn't help the fact. So anytime she comes on screen, I'm honestly just like rolling my eyes, because she just, you know, is not, nah. Because it's like, first of all, she played Kane, you know, like a fucking, you know, fiddle in season 3. And then in the very beginning, she wanted to try to patch things up with him. And the only reason why she's fucking with Kane is because he's there. And because Tariq don't want her. Because as soon as she had the opportunity to try to apologize to Tariq, she tried to apologize to him and was like, oh, so we're not even now? It's like, bitch, like, yo, like, you legit tried to get me killed. Why would I fuck with you after that? You know, and really Kane should have enough backbone to say the same thing. Like, yo, like, I was there for you. I tried to be the nigga that you wanted Tariq to be. I tried to be that. And then at every opportunity, you slapped me in the face. You tried to play me to the left like I was a simp, which he was. You know? And then it's blatantly obvious that, again, you know, she likes Kane, but she loves Tariq. And, you know, finally, Kane is smart enough to know that something is up with her. Which is why he started fucking with, you know, Noma, which I don't even know why she felt the way, because it's not like you really want Kane anyway. Because if Tariq, you know, wanted Effie, she would drop Kane like a bad habit to get back with him. You know, if that's the case. So, again, I don't really know where they're going to go with her character now. Because, again, all she really wants for herself is to just be a regular student or some shit like that. And I mean, I guess she only got into the drug business because she didn't have the money, you know, in the first place. But, you know, I mean, yeah. So, you know, because somebody, like a girl like Effie, it's like you can never have a good relationship with her because she's never going to make you a priority, or she's just always gonna like stab you in the back or do some fucked up shit to you, you know, at some point, and she's never gonna appreciate the things that you do, you know, because Kane was the one that was paying off her tuition, showing up, you know, to her in jail, you know, giving her a cell phone to warn her that people were gonna try to kill her in jail. Like, yo, nigga, like, he held it down, and she didn't appreciate any of that shit. So, you know, I personally, like, I just don't like her. And again, I would compare Effie to, you know, a stray animal. Like I said before, she's the example of you nurturing a snake back to good health and it biting you again. And the reason why it bit you is because it's a snake. A snake's going to be a snake, regardless. And she's going to align herself with whoever can help her in the end. You know, because all she wants to do is help herself. And that's my thoughts on Effie. Noma. Now, I thought Noma was a dope and kind of interesting character, you know, in season 3. But as season 4 kind of, you know, went on, there's not really much to her, to be honest with you. You know, Noma is just the type of chick that she's like the alpha male chick. The chick that wants to be alpha. She wants to be the leader. She wants to be the boss. She wants to call all the shots. You know, and because of that, it's hard for her to keep a man. Because, you know, of how her attitude is set up. And, you know, it was very obvious that she needed dick. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so Obi was trying to give it to her. She didn't want it from him, you know. And then Kane, you know, was over here, you know, being, you know, a fucking son husband, you know. So that was her, you know, way of doing it. Because Noma is like a cougar. She's legit like a cougar, especially the way that she was dressed at the fight with Zion and Kane. Like, yeah, she just gives off cougar vibes. You know, and again, like, she went from fucking with Kane and kind of establishing that, you know, parental, you know, weird relationship dynamic that they got, and then all of a sudden she's smashing Davis MaClean. So really, she, at this point now, she's just like a sexual object that just happens to be, you know, a drug lord kingpin boss that calls the shots. But when you peel the surface, like if you peel all of that away, you know, there's really nothing all that interesting about her character outside of Anya. You know what I mean? And really, she's just trying to, which I respect. That, I will say that's one thing that I will respect. The difference between Noma and Monet is that Noma's keeping her daughter away from the business. You know, so I will say that. So I'm not going to criticize her about that. But, you know, Noma is just Noma. You know what I mean? Like, she's just a chick that, you know, you just bend over. You know, and you know what I mean, and then just give her one real quick, because that's what she needs, because she need to calm down. You know, because Noma, she's always just tense and high strung and all that shit. Even Zion peeped that. Even Zion peeped that shit. Like, you know, when he pulled up to her little business deal, dinner, whatever, he had to snatch her up too. Like, yo, you know what I mean? And what happened? She did nothing. Even Kane, it's like, you have to, like, with a woman like that, it's like you got to grab her up. Like, all right. Like, I'm running shit. Like, I'm the one that's calling the shots. And ultimately, that's what she wants. Noma does not really want to be in charge. Yes, she's in charge, but she wants another nigga to come in there and call the shots. Because that's not really what she wants to do. You know, so that's my thoughts on Noma, man. Zion. Now, I will say about Zion, right? He is like another version of Mecha, in my opinion. You know, like that cool third-party character that comes in to serve the story in some way, shape, or form. And the fact that he knew who Ghost was and knew who Tommy was and all of that, I thought that was cool. You know, like a cool little detail or Easter egg, you know, about his backstory and stuff like that. But ultimately, as we saw with Mecha, characters like that, they always waste in some way, shape, or form. Because first of all, the fact that Zion is the owner of the Fight Club and all of that shit, and then he's fighting Kane and is allegedly supposed to be this trained fighter, and then got his ass whooped by Kane to the point where he grabbed up, you know, a pair of brass knuckles because that was the only way he could think to beat Kane. I'm like, that's bullshit. Okay, because the way that Kane fights, any real trained fighter in mixed martial arts or boxing can pick Kane off easily. A nigga that fights like Kane cannot go in a boxing ring and fight like that. I mean, like, yeah, there is such thing as having natural ability, like Kane said, but at the same time, Zion was supposed to win that fight, or it was supposed to be a stalemate. Like, I think from a storytelling perspective, you know, with respect to the character, like the way that they're trying to establish Zion's character, that fight should have been a stalemate, or it should have been closer than that. You know, he shouldn't have stoop down to, yeah, let me grab, you know, an illegal weapon and try to hurt him with it. You know, because I think that he's better than that. Where they're gonna go with his character, probably very typical. Again, he's just a secondary, you know, antagonist. So somebody's going to off him at some point. You know what I mean? Like, Zion is not, you know, a character that is going to last too long on power, because that's what they do with characters like that. You know, they make a guy look mad cool, like, yo, like he's the guy or the next up, and then, you know, he just gets off by Tariq or some shit. You know, or really, Kane is going to be the one to do him in. You know, because they already showed that, yeah, like him and Kane are kind of on the same level. But when push comes to shove, Kane is better than him on paper. On paper, the way that they wrote it, I mean. Because he shouldn't be just like a mid-level drug dealer like he said. It's like, because the Tejadas aren't even all of that either. Tejadas are not even the big fish. So if the Tejadas aren't the big fish, and neither is Zion, then who? Noma? Nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. So, you know, I like this character, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of Unique from Raising Kanan, just a little bit, just in terms of like just the vibe of his character. You know, that could have been like an interesting, Unique, and what the fuck is Kanan's mom's name? Raquel dynamic between Zion and Noma, but obviously, you know, they're not gonna do that. But you know, so anyway, that's my thoughts on Zion. Detective Carter. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit disappointed on what they ended up doing with his character. You know, because for him to end up being a dirty cop, to me, just doesn't really, like, it just didn't seem like conducive to where the story is allegedly supposed to be heading. Because from my impression of the trailer and who they were building him up to be thus far prior to, you know, episode 5, I would have rathered him be, you know, a more clean-cut, by-the-book cop, kind of like, you know, Lamar Tate is. You know, like him saying, okay, y'all gonna work for me, give me 30%, and you can't kill any innocents. To me, it's just like, like not every cop has to be dirty. You know what I mean? And I feel like he would have been good as the main antagonist for a lot of these characters, because if he was clean 100%, then he's a real threat. But because if he's dirty, then that leaves an opening for his character's downfall at some point. Because what always happens to dirty cops? They get caught. They get caught or killed. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's gonna do him in at some point. You know? So just because of the fact that he's dirty and he's involved with drugs and all that shit, you know, it could easily be written or set up that his character is going to die. You know, because he seemed to have Monet's number, Tariq's number, Davis McLean's number, and all that shit. So he seemed like a very formidable antagonist. Or really, I mean, in a way, he's kind of the protagonist, because technically he's a good guy. You know, so I was just very disappointed at that. And I think, again, him having just unresolved mental issues, you know, from like, I guess like the death of his family or his wife, you know, or whatever, you know, that same corruption and instability in his mind and his behavior and his ethics is going to be his downfall. You know, but shout outs to Michael Ealy, because, you know, he does his thing, you know, on the show. Now, I want to mention Ghost very briefly. I want to mention him because, you know, I was really hoping that they were going to bring him back in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like the only reason why he's not back, or he hasn't come back, is because Starz isn't willing to cut Omari the check that he deserves for him to come back. Because they're going to have to throw him the bag, like I said before, in order for him to come back on the show. And I feel like for it to be called Power Book 2 Ghost, I mean, why wouldn't you not, you know, bring him on the show? Because like I said before, like, that's going to flip the internet upside down. You know, that's going to be the talk of, you know, the internet for a while if they bring him back. And actually could spark new life into whatever spinoff it is that they say that they're going to do outside of Origins. You know, because that dream sequence that, you know, he had where he was, you know, tripping off acid, I thought that would have been the time where, you know, like, you know, Ghosts, you know, his father's ghost comes back to at least have a conversation with him. You know, not with himself. You know, I mean, that worked too, you know, from a thematic perspective, but I think it would have hit more if that was Ghost that walked up and had a conversation with him. Let's say, you know, the episode could have ended with him seeing his father, and then, you know, part 2 would have started with, you know, the actual conversation, you know, and what he takes away from his dad, you know. But again, I'm pretty sure if they could, they would have done that already. You know, but they won't, because again, like, they weren't even paying Omari Hardwick the money that he felt like he deserved before. You know, so if they didn't pay him before, they're not going to do it now, especially if they're canceling the show because of money reasons. You know, so, you know, clearly they didn't have the extra, you know, $250,000, you know what I mean, like 6 figures, to throw him to make a cameo appearance on the show. But if I was the writer, I would have definitely brought him back, in a way to kind of vindicate, Ghost. Because you got to keep in mind, at this point now, Tariq realizes that his father actually meant well. And the life that Tariq is dealing with right now that was everything that Ghost was afraid of. That was everything he was trying to prevent. It ended up happening. Why? Because he killed his father. And he sees his father in himself. The guy that he supposedly hated, he actually now is starting to see the parallel, between the two. And I feel like the way that they killed this character, he needs to be vindicated. Because there are power fans out there that think that Ghost was a bad father, and that's not the case at all. Because like I said before, look at where, the St. Patrick's are now. Fucking Tasha is working at a dollar store, a dollar warehouse store or some shit, supermarket, whatever. Fucking Yaz is in witness protection, WITSEC. You feel me? Tariq is just constantly in danger. His school is on the back burner because he could die or go to jail at any point. So what's the purpose in even being in school at this point now? You ain't gonna finish, and you don't have access to your trust fund anymore. So it's like all of this could have been prevented had he listened to, his father. And one thing I like that Zion said, and we all know this is true, is that Ghost knew how to solve a problem before it became a problem. He could see shit coming and then do what he needs to do to prevent it from getting out of hand. And if it did get out of hand, he would handle that shit quick. And that's one of the many qualities that Ghost had that Tariq does not have. Which is why, Tariq is like, oh, I gotta reach the top of the ladder. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Well, Ghost was already there. You know what I'm saying? So even when, there was another threat coming around, like, Tommy and Ghost, they were just as formidable as the threat that they were dealing with. So shit wasn't ever really an issue. The only real threats was in-house problems, which was Tasha, Tariq, Kanan, Angela, you know what I'm saying? And people like that. So, but I honestly am predicting that Ghost will not make an appearance on the show. If he does, that would be phenomenal, but I honestly don't see that happening at all. And Davis MaClean. I mean, I'll just be very quick because, not a whole lot is going on with his character. But I will say that I do kind of like the fact that, he's loyal, and he recognizes that, like, I got to be loyal to Tariq because ultimately, that's what's going to help me in the end. So I like the fact that he's been having Tariq's back. But at the same time, I mean, if I was Davis MaClean, personally, I wouldn't even put up with Tariq, crime, all of that shit. I would just focus on my, multi-million-dollar law firm, however much money he's making, getting pussy, and minding my fucking business. That's what I would be doing if I was MaClean. I would not be, worried about what these people got going on for bread. Because it's like I can make more money dealing with legitimate people than dealing with y'all. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, that's what's going to be my downfall is fucking with you niggas. So, ultimately, that's my thoughts on Davis. But I do think he should watch out with fucking with Noma. Well, as a matter of fact, I don't know. Because I feel like Kane might not even really care. Who knows? But he should watch his back, as far as who he's fucking. And I do think that if Kane finds out and presses him about the shit, yeah, Davis is gonna die. And ultimately, I don't think that Noma is really worth, a bullet from Kane, in my opinion. So, so those are my thoughts on season 4, part 1. And be sure, as always, to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.